Let's talk about fear. Out of the habits, attitudes, beliefs, and expectations, research tells us that fear is the most limiting habe out there. As a matter of fact, Dr. Albert Bandura once described fear as the root cause of all dysfunction. And so we had further conversation around this, around, well, how are we defining dysfunction? And what we found was dysfunction was different than ignorance. Ignorance is lack of information, lack of know-how, but fear is when dysfunction is when a person knows what they should do and they just don't do it. And what Bandura said is you can always trace that back to fear. And fear comes in many different forms. Sometimes it could be fear of failure, fear of success, fear of the unknown. It shows up in many different ways. Fear of failure can show up as perfectionism. Fear of change can show up in, well, this is the way we've always done it, so let's just stick here. And it builds a roadblock to innovation. But fear within itself often limits us. The thing about fear is this: fear has a way of disguising itself to make itself look bigger. It's often not the entire goal that we're afraid of. Normally it's one piece, but fear attaches itself to the big goal. I have a really good friend that I speak about in my book who wanted to go back to school. And he kept saying, I'm nervous, I'm scared to go back, I'm scared to go back and everything else. And one day we got into a really great conversation. I said, what is it about college that is holding you back? What are you afraid of? And he said, well, I've never been a strong writer. Oh, because we can attack writing. But when you say, I'm just afraid of going back to school, that feels huge. But you know that there's writing labs out there. There's all types of books. And now there's so much technology that can help you with writing and help you get through that course. We can attack writing, but it's hard to attack the entire piece of going back to school. So one of the things about fear is being able to identify what it truly is that we are fearing, because once we can identify that, we can create a real action plan to attack that thing. And let me tell you, the life that we often want is on the other side of fear. Fear not only shows up individually, but it also shows up inside of our teams. Sometimes it might show up even in our communication styles. I'm afraid of this conversation going off the rails, so I just procrastinate and I don't even have it. Fear, again, is probably the most limiting habe out there. So one thing I always suggest people to do is to start strategizing on how we're going to address and attack fear, because the life, the results, the production that we want is often on the other side of it.